bringing together voices in child and youth healthcare. This is CAFC Presents.
CAFC would like to thank the following member organizations for their generous support of our knowledge translation activities: the IWK Health Centre, the Children's Health Foundation of London, the McMaster Children's Hospital Foundation, the Children's Hospital of Eastern Ontario Research Institute, the Children's Hospital Foundation of Manitoba, the Montreal Children's Hospital Foundation, the Holland Bloorview Children's Rehabilitation Hospital Foundation, and the Children's Hospital Foundation of Saskatchewan. We would also like to thank the following Keystone and program partners for their ongoing contributions that support all of CAFC's programs and activities. If you have any questions or comments for our panelists, please type them into the question box at any time during the presentation. You can also share your thoughts and questions on Twitter by tagging @CAFCTweets and using the hashtag CAFCPresents. All of our webinars are recorded and can be found on the CAFC Knowledge Exchange Network. Use the CAN to share these recordings with your colleagues or register an account and post comments, links, or other resources that you think will be of interest. And be sure to sign up for the CAFC Presents weekly email newsletter to stay up to date with upcoming webinars and our recorded webinar archive.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's episode of CAFC Presents. I'm Doug Maynard, the Associate Director at CAFC, the Canadian Association of Pediatric Health Centres. Today's webinar is titled Youth Leaders at Holland Bloorview, How the Youth Mentorship Program is Leading the System. And it's my pleasure to welcome back to the CAFC Presents stage today, two of our presenters, CJ Curran and Dolly Menadak, joined us a couple of years ago with a presentation titled Youth Leaders at Holland Bloorview, How Youth Advisory Council is Transforming Care. And that was a couple of years ago, I think back in 2014, but that presentation is available on the CAFC Knowledge Exchange Network. And at that time, they introduced us to some of the work they were doing around their youth program at the Holland Bloorview Kids Rehabilitation Hospital. And we're excited now to learn a little bit more about how that program has grown and how they've incorporated a youth mentorship role into their activities. So it's a great opportunity to reintroduce our panel. So we do have CJ Curran, who's the Manager of Therapeutic Recreation and Life Skills at Holland Bloorview Kids Rehabilitation Hospital, and she has extensive experience in the healthcare sector with pediatric rehabilitation. And joining her is her colleague Dolly Menadak, who is the Youth Facilitator in the Cross-Organizational Transition Program, known as the Lifespan Service at Holland Bloorview Kids Rehabilitation Hospital and the Toronto Rehab Hospital at the University Health Network in Toronto. And Dolly is also the staff lead for the youth engagement programs at Holland Bloorview, including the Youth Advisory Council and the Youth Mentorship Program. So without any further ado, I will just one more reminder to type your questions in as you think of them. The question box is there, as you saw on the screen earlier. Type your questions as you think of them. So and now it's my pleasure to hand the virtual podium over to CJ and Dolly. Over to you guys.
Thank you, Doug. Hi, everybody. It's CJ Curran speaking first, and then Dolly will be following me. So we thought we'd start with an overview of what we hope to accomplish throughout the webinar this morning. We're going to talk a little bit about Holland Bloorview, an introduction to the Youth Mentorship Program. We're going to touch a little bit on the program history and how it's aligned with what we refer to as our youth engagement strategy, how the mentorship program is meeting the changing needs of youth. We thought some of you might be interested in funding, how we recruit, and Dolly is going to talk extensively about training and the different curriculum that we've developed. Roles for youth mentors, of course, will be discussed, and we hope to leave plenty of time for questions. So in the event, as some of you may not know about Holland Bloorview Kids Rehabilitation Hospital is located in Toronto, Ontario, Canada's largest pediatric teaching rehabilitation hospital that's fully affiliated with the University of Toronto. In 2015-16, Holland Bloorview saw 7,400 clients. 55,000 of those clients were outpatient visits, and we had 543 inpatient visits. And just to give you an idea of who those outpatients and inpatients are, our outpatients roughly comprise of 25% of children that have autism, 24% developmental delay, and 22% cerebral palsy. So those are our top three diagnoses for that fiscal. And with inpatients, 22% have acquired brain injury, 19% cerebral palsy, and then 15% other developmental disorders. So again, top 3 diagnoses for our inpatients. And at Holland Bloorview, we have close to, well, just over 950 staff and are incredibly supported by 965 volunteers, which really help us to do what we aim to do here. So Dolly and I thought that a nice place to start would be to take a poll in terms of who's in our audience. We really want to get a sense of that so that we're hoping we can assure we cover off all those topics of interest that some of you might have.
All right, so this is your chance to just let us know who's in the audience. Just go up and make your choice on the screen. Just click which one would best fit your role. And if you see something there that does not address, that does not reflect your role at all, if none of the choices do, then just go ahead and type it into the question box, and that'll give us a sense of who's in the audience. As we saw from their opening slide, there's a little bit for everyone, from sort of administration of the program and funding to more specifics about the program for implementation. So there is a little bit for everyone here, but it's always great to know who's out there. All right, so we'll just close that off, and it looks like most of the people, 65% of the audience, is frontline service provider, followed by 23% saying they are an administrator, 12% saying they're an educator. It's not today. We don't have any policymakers or families in the audience.
Thank you, Doug, for that. That helps us in terms of some of our framing for the future slides. So we know that youth with disabilities often lack opportunities to acquire life skills, and that's a result of many barriers, and there's been quite extensive research done on that. Advances in healthcare are leading to longer life expectancies for many children with disabilities. And as such, there's an increasing need to effectively prepare children and youth with disabilities for life as adults. The focus of participation and inclusion, which is a portfolio that Dolly and I both work under here at Holland Bloorview, is really the focus is in the development of skills to enhance meaningful participation. We offer a continuum of evidence-informed inpatient, ambulatory, and community-integrated therapeutic services, and all of them are really designed to enhance the quality of life and support optimal transition across the lifespan. Some of the work we do aims to reduce barriers to participation and inclusion, a focus on transfer of care to adult services and transition services across the continuum of care. Really extensive work on youth leadership and self-management principles, which is what we're covering off today. Child and family resiliency and adaptation, and certainly participation intervention are all areas that we focus on here in participation and inclusion. This slide, you'll see the vision of what we call our youth engagement strategy on the slide. And really, our youth engagement strategy was developed, I guess, how many years ago, Dolly? I would say late 2012. Late 2012. So we had programs such as the Youth Advisory Council, Youth Mentorship. They all have a long history at Holland Bloorview. And an overall framework at that time remained unclear. And as a result, we ventured on defining our youth role, specifically within programs and services, including the expectations of youth, their accountability, and I guess what their role across the organization in terms of programs and services. The youth engagement strategy in its current state has multiple arms, and today we're going to talk, as you know, about the Youth Mentorship Program specifically. You can access the CAPC Knowledge Exchange Network to view our previous presentation about the Youth Advisory Council, which was mentioned at the beginning of the webinar. Our youth engagement strategy really enables youth leaders to collaborate with the organization and be actively engaged throughout the organization. At Holland Bloorview, we have a robust family leadership program that some of you may be aware of that really enables our family members to collaborate and have meaningful roles across Holland Bloorview. This slide has some great quotes, I guess, or some information that Dolly's pulled up on peer mentoring. So I'm just going to pause while you read what's on there, and then we're going to speak to it. In preparing for this webinar, Dolly and I referred to a document that was that recently came out, and some of you will be familiar with it, called We Have Something to Say. And it was a document that was produced by the Provincial Advocate for Children and Youth. And it really was an opportunity for young people and their families to speak about special needs and change specifically. It's a very powerful document, so any of you that have not seen it, we would highly recommend it. There's a couple of quotes that I took right from the document regarding peer mentorship that I thought was really, really powerful. The first one, and I quote, "All levels of government and service providers in Ontario must recognize and respect that youth generally know themselves best, and youth are experts about their own life experiences." And the second quote is almost a call to action within the document. It states, and again I quote, "Provincial and municipal government must support, expand, and raise the profile of peer support programs in Ontario." And very briefly, before I hand it over to Dolly, this slide gives you just some milestones with regards to the program history and the highlights between 1998 and 2008. So in that time frame, we have trained 82 youth as mentors. In 2006, Dolly introduced an annual newsletter for mentorship and really an opportunity for them to share their stories and develop writing skills. We had an opportunity to send a life skills facilitator to Sweden in 2007 to train a local rehab center in how to set up what they refer to as a mentorship school. And the Swedish center actually translated Holland Bloorview's training materials before beginning their own mentorship program in 2008. I will say that 8 mentor training sessions were held between 1998 and 2008, and Dolly's going to talk about more recent accomplishments and milestones. And Dolly's position as a mentorship program leader was formalized in 2006. It's actually hard to believe. It's been that long. I'm going to hand this over now to Dolly to speak more about the Youth Mentorship Program.
Thanks, CJ. And so really what I want to set up the stage for, like CJ said, Holland Bloorview's had a long history of engagement with current and former clients as youth leaders. And really, the formalization that came about with our youth engagement strategy really sought to ensure that the community of Holland Bloorview had access to trained youth. So youth that wanted to contribute to the organization at all levels, but had gone through a training program and were ready to work in collaboration with the organization. So currently, our youth mentors range in age from 16 to 29, and as of 2016, we have 45 trained youth mentors. And you'll remember that CJ gave you the number of 82 in our earlier program, and those were our trained mentors from our initial programs, and the 45 is from our new program training that I will talk about. So just a little bit of quick facts about our youth mentors. They are embedded throughout the organization, and really what they do is work alongside our staff to share their lived experiences. And they do this with clients. Parents have many questions for youth mentors, and they also share their experiences with external groups that are interested in the experiences of youth growing up with disabilities. And they do this on a volunteer basis. The youth mentors are our current and former clients, and they're aged 16 plus, as you saw on the previous slide, up to 29, and they receive specific training in how to become youth mentors. We really provide opportunities for youth to talk about what they feel that they are experts in and what they're most comfortable sharing experiences about, in order to create valuable matching opportunities for youth to talk with other clients and families and to speak with staff and programs. So how is it that youth do that? Well, they share their personal experiences either in client discussions alongside a staff member, or they do a lot of work with small group mentoring with youth that are in similar age groups or are in similar programs that are focusing on a particular skill. An example would be youth that are interested in gaining independent living skills. A youth mentor who lives independently would come and share their personal experiences. And they also participate in organizational initiatives, and this is at every level of the organization, including broad initiatives like strategic planning, all the way to specific questions about the delivery or recruitment of a particular service or research project. And youth often speak on panels to share their experiences. So the Youth Mentorship Program was redesigned in 2012 and now offers a 3-day in-person training. And as we mentioned, 45 youth have participated in this training since 2012. Along with the redesign of the program, 6 youth were identified as super mentors. And the super mentors were all young adults that have been current and former clients that have experiences facilitating other youth peers or have worked with youth in actual job roles in the community or within the organization. Our super mentors act as advisors to the current mentors and also to the mentorship program so that they can provide their thoughts, input, and really share their experiences when any program planning is done or redesign happens. Training occurs in groups of 6 to 10 youth, and there is a variety of topics. I've highlighted 2 here that I think are very important, which is communication skills, everything from working with a client to speaking at large conferences. The other very important is privacy and confidentiality. And I will say that there's a number of privacy and confidentiality training sessions throughout our training program that focus on multiple types of privacy, including organizational privacy, to the individual privacy of the youth mentor candidate themselves. Holland Bloorview has really taken a step forward in engaging clients and families in the research process. And as a result, a new research ethics and ethics education module was piloted in our training this year in 2016. And what it does is offer a multi-pronged approach to help youth understand research and research ethics questions. Our youth mentors are able to collaborate with researchers in a variety of ways, including joining a research project steering committee to really talking with researchers about the right way to recruit youth. Our youth leaders don't act as a pool of research participants, but rather give the lowdown on how the best way to recruit young adults and youth into research studies are. Are you really going to find a youth to participate by posting up a poster, or should you be using skills like Twitter in order to connect with youth? These are the kinds of things that youth mentors talk about. Our ethics education module has also been presented at the Canadian Bioethics Society conference and will also be presented in the new year at the Joint Centre for Bioethics at the University of Toronto. The training is offered at times that are most convenient for youth, which is an important consideration for engagement. 3 days is a big commitment for our youth leaders, and generally they're offered in evenings and weekend dates. So the redesign of the Youth Mentorship Program has been well recognized, and the training has also been delivered at the Hospital for Sick Children and also at Variety Village, one of our local integrated fitness centers. And as a result, our youth mentors have been involved in many projects throughout the last number of years. 3 youth mentors have been panel speakers at province-wide conferences. Over 10 youth mentors have participated in education sessions given to allied health students at the University of Toronto. And as CJ mentioned, the We Have Something to Say report from the Provincial Advocate for Children and Youth, our Youth Advisory Council and our youth mentors worked together in order to support our current clients, both inpatient and outpatient, to have a voice and be able to create a submission for the Provincial Advocates Project. And we had a youth mentor that was present on the report out day in order to stay connected with the information and connect back to our own youth leaders. Also, examples of internal uses are things like our post-secondary workshop day. So many of our youth leaders are well utilized in internal programs and services. So we thought that potentially there'd be some questions about funding. And what we wanted to let you know, and definitely if you have questions later, you can type them in as Doug said. But the Youth Mentorship Program is supported through an endowment fund, and it covers a 0.2 FTE, so 1 day a week for mentorship program staff. And also, in order to really facilitate the participation of our youth mentors, an honorarium and public transportation cost support is offered to offset those costs that a youth mentor may incur just purely from having to participate by going to a conference or by coming here to Holland Bloorview.
And hi, it's CJ again. Just to add one other, I guess, interesting fact about the funding is we also have a 0.2 FTE, so a 1 day a week line for Dolly's role as a youth facilitator in our Ministry of Health global funding budget. And it's important to us to have that because it really illustrates our commitment to the role of youth within rehabilitation. And again, I can speak more to that should there be further questions.
So we're giving you some highlights here, and this is something that often people are interested in with our youth mentorship program about recruitment. So there is a multi-pronged approach for recruitment into the youth engagement strategy, and in particular with the youth mentors. So on this side of the screen, you can see actually our quick facts that is used when a youth identifies that they're interested in becoming a mentor. And this is a flyer that could be given to a youth by their clinical team. They're in the building and they've identified that they really want to share their experiences. So this is available for staff to give to youth mentor candidates, and it's also available for youth mentor candidates to pick up while they're on site in the hospital, and it's also available electronically. And we have youth self-identify. This is one of the first steps of youth engagement, is to have them identify that they're interested and then make the move to contact the Youth Mentorship Program to find out more information and to sign up for training. The other place that youth mentors may identify themselves is to our Volunteer Resources Department. And all of our youth mentors, after participating in training, the ones that go on to become youth mentors, become registered volunteers of the organization, complete with ID and sign-in so that their hours are tracked and that they're recognized annually along with our regular volunteers. And as you remember, CJ said to you that we have nearly 1,000 volunteers here at Holland Bloorview, and they're very important to all of the work we do. And this addition of our youth leaders, the youth mentors, and the youth advisors is an important way for the organization to really hear the youth voice. And so they are registered volunteers as well. And so youth mentors, when they identify themselves, can be current and former clients ages 16 to 26 in an academic stream at high school, or potentially in a diploma or degree program at college or university, and we do have some that are recent grads. Now, youth mentors, you can see here that we've said 16 to 26, and that's to allow them time to remain youth mentors. So the youth mentor commitment is that they will remain a mentor for a year after participating in training, and this gives them opportunities to actually have some time to do some good volunteer work and really get engaged in the kinds of programs that they're interested in supporting. So training. Since we did our redesign, we piloted many different types of training, different dates, different times of year. And from that, the data we've collected have shown us that one time per year, at the end of the college and university year has been the most successful. No snow, a big factor. And the modules that are in training are delivered by a range of staff at Holland Bloorview. And I've given some examples here, but we do have opportunities for clinical staff to participate in training, volunteer resources, bioethics, and our social workers. Our social workers have really been great at advising and talking with us and our youth mentors about personal values and identification of boundaries, which feeds really nicely into our privacy and confidentiality sessions as well. The youth mentors that are in high school can request volunteer hours for participation in training and submit that for the Ontario 40 hours credit. And for youth that are in college and university programs, they often are using these as their extracurricular activities, as some colleges and universities now have a co-curricular report that shows what their community engagement is like. Also, our youth mentors add youth mentoring to their resumes, and after a year are able to produce a report of how much time they've actually spent volunteering at Holland Bloorview from our volunteer resources department. Another key part of our training to support the youth mentors has been attendant care. And we've really seen that having attendant care available has reduced barriers and concerns of the youth mentors. And it's also, when we talked about funding, one of the things that we really are committed to is supporting our youth mentors when they're on site and they need to participate. After the training is complete, the youth mentor, along with the youth mentor staff, are able to talk if the youth mentor feels that they're not quite ready to start mentoring, and other training is offered, as well as one-on-one conversations and co-mentoring with one of our super mentors or one of our more experienced mentors in order to ease them into that role of being a mentor. So a few examples. What is it that a youth mentor might talk about? So we're excited. We have a program. We want you to be excited too. But what's a youth mentor really going to do? Well, some big topics over the years have been preparing to go to college or to university. What is it going to be like? What are the differences? What should I expect? They've also really talked about what it's like to participate in programs, learning and life skills programs at Holland Bloorview and in the community. Really, when we think about the amount of thought that goes into coordinating oneself as a youth to participate in programs, having someone who's been there and participated in the program and can speak to the benefits and the impact it's had on their own life really highlights for clients and families why it might be worth it to take the plunge and do something that they might be tentative about, or reaffirm their excitement about participating in a program, for example, being away from home for the first time. Also, our youth mentors provide tips for growing up with a disability or acquired injury. Our youth mentors do have a range of different health conditions, and if a client or staff asks for a specific mentor to speak about some experiences with acquired injury or specific disability, we do our best to accommodate that request, as it can be very meaningful for clients at the right time in their healthcare visit. So how is it that youth mentors get involved here at Holland Bloorview? As I've said before, they speak on panels, at workshops, both internally and in the community. They speak at conferences, both local and provincial. They visit services being offered to current clients and connect with other youth that are either participating in programs or receiving services. And they also attend meetings and project groups to provide the youth perspective and advise on matters that are important to youth growing up with disabilities or acquired injuries. Roles of youth mentors include one-to-one mentoring. Clients, family members, or staff may make a request to have an individual youth mentoring session. Youth mentors are also used when a new service is being planned or a process improvement is happening at the hospital, and also for conferences and workshops. And as I mentioned, when research projects are being planned, often youth mentors are utilized as members of the steering committee or as a way to gain input and feedback on how to recruit or engage youth participants in that particular research project. Just to give you an idea about the demographics of our current youth mentors, this was from the end of last year in 2015. So at that time, there was 37 trained youth mentors, and their age range at that time was 17 to 28. You can see here that more young ladies than young men, but still a good number. And also these important aspects, so having a visible disability, attending school, what was their previous experiences. And you can see here that 4 of them were also working full-time. So a number of our super mentors and some of our youth mentors are also post-graduation and are working, but still are able to connect with the program and provide support and input as is convenient for their schedule. And this is to give you an example of formal requests for youth mentoring in 2013, right after we launched our new training program. There were 20 in the organization, and in 2015, we had moved up to 39, and these requests have continued to grow over the last year. And so these have been some details about our Youth Mentorship Program, and now CJ and I would like to find out if there are any questions that we can discuss with you.
All right, thank you for the great presentation. We do have a few questions that have come in already, and just again a reminder to the audience: type any questions you have, just type them into that question box, and we'll make sure our presenters have a chance to answer them for you. The first question came in right at the beginning when you were talking about Holland Bloorview in general and sort of the breakdown of the patient population. Kendra was asking, does your center have youth spinal cord injuries? And if they do, can you give an estimate of how significant that portion of the patient population is?
So we do certainly have that client population here. In terms of an estimate with numbers, I would have to refer back to the information to give you that, just to be accurate. Which I don't have a problem doing. I just don't have it at the top of my head.
Okay. All right, and the second question that came in was they were asking who the youth report to. Is it volunteer services? Is it recreation therapists directly? Sort of how does that reporting structure work?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the youth mentors actually are housed within the program that CJ and I are in, Participation and Inclusion, and they report to volunteer resources for everything that a volunteer would. So they do their police reference checks through volunteer resources. They also have opportunities to do practice interviews with volunteer resources. They do their annual updating of their contracts with volunteer resources and ID, those types of things. So really concrete volunteer type issues. Other than that, they report to me as the youth engagement strategy lead. And what that consists of is making sure that they've met any of their expectations, so coming to training, and our youth mentors are asked to volunteer at least once during the year in a way that's convenient for them. So there is no limit to how many times they can participate in a youth mentoring opportunity, but we want to make sure that our youth mentors can feel engaged even when away at college and university. So we offer phone opportunities, web connect opportunities, and we also have summer and evening and weekend opportunities for youth mentors. And then as a result, they would, through me, also report to CJ, who's our interim senior director, and for any questions or things that they needed to sort out. And the volunteer resources department, though, often has opportunities for immediate questions as well.
All right. The next question that came in was from Louise. She's asking, could you expand a little bit more on the roles of the 0.2 FTE mentorship program staff?
Yes. So that really has to do with a lot of coordination and supporting of the youth mentors. So that is everything from planning and coordinating the annual youth mentor training, advertising and recruiting and confirming which youth mentors and ensuring a good fit for that training group of the youth mentors, and also managing the one-on-one requests that are received for youth mentors. So internally, when a request is received, there are forms that ask some basic questions about what the need is, and then the staff, which is me, I connect with that requester and really try to get some details in order to support the best fit youth mentor to connect with that group. And maybe I'll just give a concrete example of that. So at Holland Bloorview, we have a residential immersive life skills program called the Independence Program. And they request a number of youth mentors each year. And so when they make their request, the types of things that we would be talking about as the lead would be, where is the program going to be run? How long would you have liked someone to have been living on their own? Do you want them to talk about utilizing attendant care or living on their own or creative support? Sometimes when people live on their own, they may have gotten a service dog for the first time, because really what we want to try to do is meet the needs of the client group that is currently participating in that program. So those are some examples. Also writing our annual reports and running education opportunities for the already trained youth mentors and keeping them connected to each other.
I think I would just add too, Dolly, the amount of work that you do in reaching out to organizations outside of Holland Bloorview. So, for example, when you consult with Hospital for Sick Kids on training modules, when you appear as guest speaker panelist. So, Dolly does do quite an extensive amount of outreach outside of the walls of Holland Bloorview to promote and advance peer mentorship, I guess, whenever we get the opportunity.
All right. Benjamin is asking, he says, when connecting mentors to clients, are there certain requirements that you consider? For example, an age gap between the mentor and the mentee, or for example, can the mentor be younger but highly skilled in an area that they are supporting the mentee in, such as, for example, public transit?
That's also a great question. These are great questions. Good job, audience. So the youngest mentee that we accept is 8 years old. And yes, we do allow cross-age peer mentoring, and there is some great research that shows that there's real benefits. And early on in our presentation, as you saw our quotes about mentorship, that really we believe that it's about the idea that one individual has a greater knowledge set that's perceived as being valuable or important by the mentee. And so age doesn't necessarily equate to being more experienced in every area. It could be more or less experienced in a number of areas. So definitely when we intake a new youth mentor, there's quite a detailed but very accessible form that they can use that has checkboxes that allows them to identify what they particularly feel skilled about talking about. And so really we're looking for the right match from a content perspective before anything else.
Okay. The next question is coming in from Scott. He's saying, as he recalls, Holland Bloorview is a member of Upopolis. He's wondering if there's an integration between those two programs or if they work together in any way.
So I think what I'll say is I can't give a very detailed answer, and the reason why is because Eupopolis is available to our inpatient clients through our child life specialist, and so that's something that I'm not able to comment on. However, our youth mentors are connected with our inpatient clients in the way that there are a number of formalized opportunities for the inpatients to connect to youth mentors, often through programming that's being run at the hospital.
Do you want to give an example, Dolly, with the activity room?
Yeah, I think that a great way is on our inpatient floor we have a teen lounge, and so we've been hosting the teen lounge with a peer, and they've been a trained youth mentor, and we've been piloting it for I guess the last year and a half, and we've had success having a peer, a youth leader, who is a trained mentor in our teen lounge on a regular basis. And so starting in January, we will be having actually multiple times a week 2 youth leaders hosting our teen lounge in order to provide opportunities for youth that are inpatients currently at the hospital to connect with a peer who's been through Holland Bloorview services and now graduated Holland Bloorview services.
All right. The next question from Marie is she's saying that it sounds like the youth mentors do play an advisory role in some sense. She's wondering if there's an overlap between the work of the mentors and the youth council. Also a great question. So what I can say is there can be, but the Youth Advisory Council meets once a month during the school season and acts as a sounding board for clients, families, staff, volunteers, and researchers here at Holland Bloorview. And when people are receiving the input of youth advisors or the Youth Advisory Council, they're often coming and bringing their questions to the Youth Advisory Council, and they have an opportunity to hear all at once the varied opinions of the Youth Advisory Council that are connected, yes, to some projects and programs that go on at the hospital. Youth mentors, because they receive a specific and specialized training in connecting on a different level, they often are doing things like going into programs. So when life skills programs are being run, a great example is we had a request for a life skills group that was for early teen girls, so just between 12 and 14, and they were running, it was a great group, I just get excited every time I think about it, but they were running this great group, and it went for 6 weeks, and it was all girls, and they were talking about things that were important to girls at that age, and it was a life skills program, and they wanted to have a youth mentor in order to speak with and participate in that program with the girls. So we had a youth mentor who was a young lady who was 20 at the time go to every single session. And they talked about things like walking in high heels when you have a physical disability. And they talked about things like the energy level that it takes to go and pick out, some of the girls were getting ready for grade 8 graduation, to pick out a dress. And so you can see that there's a difference in what it is that the youth mentors may be approaching, because it's valuable for an individual client, whereas the Youth Advisory Council is contributing on a more organizational level to projects and initiatives. Now, I will say, when there are big hospital initiatives, a youth mentor representative is also participating in those initiatives, as well as a Youth Advisory Council member. And they offer 2 different lenses. The Youth Advisory Council member may be sitting on a project or steering committee to be a liaison with the Youth Advisory Council so that discussion can happen offline and be provided back to that organizational initiative or project.
the youth mentor, again, is able to speak from their own experiences and extrapolate how decisions can be impacting youth in similar circumstances. Hopefully that provides some detail.
Yeah, no, I think that's great. That's great. Gilles is asking if you provide group support programs, and do the mentors have a role in the group activities?
Could you, we're wondering what group support programs, what you're referring to exactly.
I think he's just asking, in general, do you offer group support in the same sense that you offer one-to-one mentorship programs? Is there any kind of group activity as well that the mentors would have a role in?
Yeah, for mentoring, we do small group mentoring. An example of where we might do that is, again, in our life skills program.
Mm-hmm.
So in the summer, we offer an early work experience program opportunity called Youth at Work. And there are usually over 10 youth in those groups in the summer, and they have time designated in their life skills program to have a youth mentor to connect with. And that youth mentor is talking about early work experience things with the current clients in that program. And so usually small group youth mentoring can be between 3 youth mentors all the way up to 10 clients for one youth mentor. And it's actually utilized quite a bit in our life skills program, the small group mentoring. I would say actually more than the one-on-one, and they're found to be very valuable. Also, in our workshops, the youth mentors that come after they've spoken on panels often are running small group youth mentoring for the youth that have come to participate or listen at a workshop or education session, because if they were on a panel, to get further detail about that topic from the youth mentor.
I think the other thing of interest too, we certainly haven't focused on parent mentorship in this webinar at all, but we have over the last 2 or 3 years recognized the changes not only that our young people go through when having participated in life skill programs, but the changes that parents experience when their young person has graduated from one of our life skill programs. So Dolly talked, for example, about the independence program that we offer in the summer, which is a 3-week residential experience. And at the end of those 3 weeks, youth have changed significantly in terms of their outlook and their skill level. And we often hear from parents that the person that they got at the end of 3 weeks that came back home is very different than the young person that entered our program 3 weeks prior. So we now, in I think all of our life skill programs, about 80%, have a parent mentorship component to them, where parents that have children that have graduated from our programs come in and talk to those parents who have children currently in our programs. And that's been hugely successful and another area that we will continue to grow.
Great. Thank you for adding that. We did have a question that just came in from Brenda, who just before you said that was asking if you do have a parent sort of counsel or mentorship program. But she also went on to ask if the two groups, the youth mentorship program and the parent or the adult or / parent mentorship program, are connected or collaborate in any way.
So that's a great question, and I will say there's lots of information about our family leadership program available on the Holland Bloorview website.
Yeah.
And what I would say is our family advisory committee and our youth advisory council are linked. So there is a youth advisory council member who is elected by the group each year that attends every family advisory committee meeting and acts as the liaison, and also participates in any of the working groups and projects that the families participate in. The family mentors and the youth mentors work together on projects that are like action projects. And so an example would be if we are hosting a large number of clients and families in the building, the youth mentors and the family mentors often see each other for those events. I do think that it's important to highlight that parent mentors are really available to parents when parents are available. And that can often be daytime business hours. And the youth mentors are often available to clients during the summertime, in the evenings, and on the weekends. So although the two programs are both very much have the same hopes and vision in mind, they're often approaching it at different times just because of the people that they're supporting.
All right, so I think there was just a couple of questions for clarification around. So when you were saying that one-to-one mentorship always happens with a staff person in the room, Marie was just asking if there was a reason for this, and there was a previous question that was sort of similar that I'll just read out as well, saying, are the one-to-one mentorship sessions held on site at Holland Bloorview with support of a staff person, or can the mentee/mentor be connected and work independently? So there's some questions about the level of supervision of the mentorship activities, the mentor-mentee interactions.
Okay, so those are great questions. And really the supervision level is quite high. So we have all of the youth mentoring that involves an actual client are on site and are supervised by staff. And that's really to ensure that the youth mentor and the client both have support if it's needed. And it's really an opportunity for the client to utilize the youth mentor's lived experience to really think about how they may want to go forward with their own goals and how they may want to go forward in approaching whatever's next for them. And having a clinical staff member available really provides a great link, because there can be opportunity to help a client think about what their goals might be and what they may want to be working on in their own lives as a result of speaking with a youth mentor. If the youth mentor is supporting a small group and it's off-site, so the independence program, our overnight 3-week program, is off-site. So if it's a program that's off-site, then the youth mentors will go off-site, but they are still supported by the staff that are running that program. Mm-hmm. So it's not limited to the hospital environment physically, but it is supported by the hospital staff. So again, if the hospital was supporting a program elsewhere and a youth mentor was requested, they would go there to that location. The other thing that I will say is that if a youth mentor is speaking, so on a panel or working with healthcare students or participating at a conference, that there would not be a staff member for supervision. They would be speaking or participating at that conference, workshop, or panel independently, unless they had requested support for a reason.
Yeah, I'll just add that that's a good point to bring up, Dolly. So a lot of time was spent in the development of the curriculum looking at boundaries, and that was a critical part of the training, because you can imagine, some of the conversations that some young people may choose to have with a mentor. So that really could be a whole different webinar in terms of talking about boundaries. But the person that asked that question, if they'd like some more information about that, I would encourage them to call Dolly or myself directly or email us, and we can have that conversation.
All right. You, on one of your slides, you had a quick fact sheet. Brenda was just wondering if that's available on your website.
So it will be. It often is. Right now, our website is just getting some fixing up. So it's just refreshing. And but it will be. So you could check back in the new year, and it should be there.
All right. Louise was asking, how long do the mentor and mentee typically work together, and do you have a discharge process at some point to sort of facilitate the ending of the relationship if it needs to at some point?
So great question. Really, again, a lot of work is done in our training with our youth mentors about the fact that this is a relationship about mentoring and that it's not intended to be a long-term relationship. So when it's one-on-one mentoring, it could be one-on-one mentoring for an individual session. And often for youth, one meeting with a youth mentor has proven to be successful and enough to answer their current questions that they have about a particular issue or program. What happens when the youth mentors and the clients meet? I support the staff in making sure that they're talking with the client so that the client understands that it will be either this one session, and if they would like to meet again, they're allowed to make those requests. And our request options go for 1 meeting, 3 meetings, or 6 meetings. And it's reinforced through the staff to the client that this is what's available. And as I say, the one-time one-on-one mentoring has proven to be our most preferred by our clients that are having one-to-one. The program or small group mentoring, that ends when that particular program comes to an end. And the program staff also talk about that to set up those expectations with the clients participating in that program.
All right. We've just got a couple more questions, and we are just about out of time. So if anyone does have a last-minute question, please get it in as quickly as you can, and hopefully we can end pretty much on time today. Just a couple more questions that we do have. Louise was asking, do the mentors have opportunities to connect with other mentors, sort of at events or sort of mentor-to-mentor support groups or anything like that?
Yeah, so also that's, I think one of the real benefits of becoming a youth mentor is mentor-to-mentor mentoring. And our super mentors are on hand, really. So our super mentors don't often see our clients for one-to-one or small group mentoring. They often are doing the mentoring of the mentors. And that's really because they have such in-depth experience. And so that's available to all of the mentors to connect if they want to have someone to connect with for mentoring in their own lives, or if they want to connect with someone about the skills required to be a mentor. And then we do have we have a social opportunity for the mentors to connect with each other. And we do have education times that the youth mentors can connect with each other as well. This past year, in the summer, we ran a one-day education session, and so the youth mentors got to connect with each other at that opportunity. And then we also have regular hospital opportunities for the mentors to connect with each other that they take advantage of, like our volunteer events, our volunteer appreciation events.
All right. This question just came in. Shalini is asking, she says she might have missed it because she came in late, but she said, are the Youth Advisory Council members paid or remunerated in any way? And what is the process for their recruitment, which you did go over that? And do they engage in any activities related to their role on the council between meetings?
Okay, so our youth advisory council members and our youth mentors are not paid. The youth advisory council members they don't receive any remuneration for participating in the youth advisory council, which is 10 meetings a year for each school year. And there are some youth advisory council members that participate in activities related to their work on the Youth Advisory Council outside of meetings, which are still volunteer collaborations with the organization. An example, as I mentioned, was our public relations representative from the Youth Advisory Council is in close connection with the Family Advisory Committee and acts as the liaison, so she's attending family advisory as well. The youth mentors, there's opportunities for them to receive support around transportation costs and also honorariums outside of training, and then also through training, and when needed, we also support with providing attendant care so that they're able to participate. And attendant care is provided at all of Youth Advisory Council meetings as well.
Mm-hmm. Last question I think we're going to take is sort of an interesting question, in that Omar's asking, what's the biggest challenge you might have faced in this process, or sort of a key learning that you've had in the development of this mentorship program? Were there any real pitfalls or surprises or anything like that you want to share with? I mean, it sounds like it's been such a fantastic experience for you, but I'm just wondering if there's been anything that people should be careful of if they're considering trying to duplicate this process.
That's a great question, and I think there's probably two things that we would say are really, really important to think about. And one, as CJ mentioned, we did a lot of work about training our youth mentors in personal boundaries and making the decision about the level of supervision when clients are participating in one-to-one mentoring. And I think that was an important step for us. We consulted internally with stakeholders in the organization. We consulted with youth, so the Youth Advisory Council, which is already established, and our super mentors, really to get their perspectives about how can we support youth mentors to have the best conditions to do their mentoring, and how can we support clients to utilize what they're hearing from the conversations to be the most impactful and meaningful in their own lives. And so I would say that real consideration around what type of mentoring to offer is very important, and to really acknowledge that staff within the organization may have opinions about those types of things, about the risks around boundaries and sharing of personal stories. And I think that taking those questions, concerns, and comments to really formulate a strong and robust program can make it very successful. And I would say the other thing to really consider is the communication strategy.
Yeah.
And really to remain a formalized program and encourage staff to use one entry point in order to access a youth mentor is very important. And it's important for so many reasons, and you can imagine things like just ensuring that you're keeping track of the numbers of times your youth mentors are being utilized, but also so that youth mentors don't feel too much pressure to be available at every point in time. Because it's a youth engagement strategy, we're doing our best to be considerate of the youth mentors' time and really help them to feel good about the choices they're making to come and participate as a youth mentor and contribute their time and energy and share their stories. And so by having it well known and understood about the process of receiving a youth mentor and having it funneled through one person, a clear communication strategy can really ensure a streamlined rollout and utilization of the mentors.
I think the only other thing, oh, sorry, Doug. I would just say really quickly, the only other thing I think is worth considering is really working with human resources and or volunteer services to have a clear outline on what the role of a mentor is and what the role of a mentor is not, so that staff and mentors alike are quite clear.
All right. Well, and thank you for adding that. I think that's a great comment to make sure people are aware of, and I think it's a great way to wrap up this presentation. I think that was a great sort of, a great way to sort of frame some of the challenges that and that you certainly sounds like you've overcome. So before we sign off, we'll just throw it back to you one last time. If there's any closing comments, any key messages that you think haven't come out that you think the audience needs to be aware of, anything you'd like to close off with.
I think we'd like to say that our contact information should be available, and so we'd be happy to follow up with anyone by email or on the phone should there be further questions. We've really enjoyed our process of redesign, and our youth mentors are even available to come and speak at other organizations. So if you'd even like to be in touch with one of them, then we can facilitate that. If you'd like to have your team or your organization hear more, that's also a great way to learn about what their experience has been like.
And the only thing I would add, and that's great, Ellie, I'm glad you mentioned that, is that the person that wanted to know the information on the percentage of clients that have spinal cord injuries, if they want to contact me directly after this, I'd be happy to provide that.
All right, and we will certainly make your contact information available on the Knowledge Exchange Network. And with that, I think we will wrap up. Again, a great presentation. Always great to hear about the youth engagement activities at Holland Bloorview. You guys always do such a great job with that sort of stuff, and such creative programs and great presentations. So, once again, thank you for coming back and joining us. We do our webinars every Wednesday at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. Although this is the last webinar of 2016 before we head off into the Christmas break. But we will be back on January 11th. Where we will be welcoming our colleagues from the Rehab Center in Winnipeg to talk about the transformation of the Rehab Center for Children to the Specialized Services for Children and Youth Center, the SCI Center, which is an integrated health and social service center for children and youth with disabilities, which opened just in July of 2016, just a few months ago. The center has integrated 7 partner agencies and 3 government departments using a change management perspective to identify the critical success factors in the movement from a fragmented and confusing delivery system to a unified and integrated service for clients and families. So we're very excited to welcome Cheryl Szynski, the Executive Director of the Rehabilitation Center for Children at the SCI Center, and Jeanette Edwards, the Regional Director of Primary Health Care and Chronic Disease from the Winnipeg Regional Health Authority to tell this interesting story about working across sectors to take a truly family-centered approach to service delivery. So that'll be a very interesting session for many of those of you that attended to the session today. And as you may have noticed, for those of you who subscribe to our weekly emails that come out every Tuesday, we are compiling our best of the last year for of our most attended webinars, etc. So you can see what was hot over the last year, what the interesting topics were that got the most attendees and the most views. So in the next couple of weeks, we'll be sharing some of that information as we head into the break. So as always, some great presentation today. Thanks again for joining us. Keep your eyes open for the email and the recording that will be available on the Knowledge Exchange Network in the next couple of days, and we hope to see everyone back here in the new year in January. Bye, everyone.